Hello, I'm Brad Phillips and welcome to Puppy Steps Training. We're very excited for you to be bringing home your new puppy. We've created this video so that we can demonstrate all of the training your puppy has received. We also want to go over how to troubleshoot it and how to make sure that you continue with the training so that you can have a lifetime of success with your puppy. Before we get into that portion of the video, we need to cover some very important parts of the training program. And that's really just to cover what your expectations are and to cover our 3 secrets to success, if you will. So first, our expectations. We have very high expectations for your puppy, and you should too. But remember, they are still a puppy, which means they are going to make mistakes. You are not getting a perfect dog. I hope that wasn't your expectation, but if it was, I would suggest that maybe you run to Walmart and get a stuffed animal, because there is no such thing as a perfect dog. They are going to make mistakes, and it's important for us to teach them what our expected behaviors are. We got to teach them that you have high expectations, that you are going to be their new leader, because right now they see myself and our trainers as leaders. And so we want the same relationship to develop with you. And in order to do that, you have to be consistent, you have to follow through, and you have to manage your dog. So, first one, consistency. When we talk about consistency, that's both consistently rewarding and correcting. You have to have both. It's also important that your whole family is consistent across the board with what they expect from your puppy, and that we expect our puppies to follow rules. Dogs need structure. They need a pack leader, and so that's where you're going to come in. So it's important to use the same words across the board. So the first one, we have our marker, which is okay. So okay means that your dog, they've done something correctly and that they're finished, and some type of reward is going to follow. So if I asked my dog to hold a down stay, I backed up, and then I would say, okay, good dog. And that means they did it correctly and they're released and they can come and get a treat from me, or they get praised or something like that. They get rewarded is what's important. Right now, your dog's a puppy, and so most likely they are very food motivated. That is a currency that they want to work for, and so we're going to use that to our advantage. And I would suggest using that positive reinforcement at least through the first year of your dog's life. As they gain fluency and they're really, really good and quick with all these commands, then you can definitely start to wean off this food reward. But as your puppy grows and matures and starts to develop a relationship with you, it's important that I would use food and I would earn their trust. And once again, I want our relationship to be built out of respect. And so if you're giving them a currency that they enjoy, you're going to build that respect much faster. But there are going to be times where you don't have food on you. And so it's important to still reward your dog. In these cases, I use praise and affection very heavily. Also, if I'm outside and we're playing with a toy, I will use that toy as a reward. You can use tennis balls or bumpers or anything like that. If your dog really enjoys playing fetch, use that toy as a reward. Go out, ask him to do some basic obedience, and then throw the toy. But always follow up with some type of reward. Now, we also use the word good. Good is like a keep going, you're almost there type of a command. I'll say good when they're holding a stay. I can walk up, tell them, good dog, good boy. And that's not releasing them, but I'm going to pet them, maybe give them a treat, and it's just more of a reassurance. That's also like, especially in a recall command, I'll start to say good as soon as they start to come towards me, because it's like, yes, you're doing the right thing, you're almost done. And then as soon as they get to me, I follow that up with, okay, good dog. So use those. Now, also, I do believe that there's a balance to all things. So just as I'm going to consistently reward, I'm going to consistently correct. So when I correct a dog, I don't believe that you need to physically dominate your dog. I want our relationship, once again, to be built out of respect. And so my correction a lot of times is simple. If I'm working with a puppy and they break, I'll just simply tell them no, and then I'll have them do that behavior again. So just as important as the actual verbal correction is that reinforcement by having them do the correct behavior. So that's all it needs to be, is a simple no. If your dog does do something a little bit more serious, like maybe they start to have an accident, that's when I do get really firm. And so once again, I'm not going to physically dominate my dog. Instead, if they start to have an accident, I might clap, I might stomp, and I'll say, no, 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 no. And I just get a lot more a lot more firm in that, teaching them like, no, no, please don't do that. Let's hurry and go outside. But once again, I'm going to follow through. So if my dog starts to have an accident and I correct him that way, I'm going to quickly grab them. I'm going to take them outside, give them the opportunity to finish going to the bathroom outside, and then I'm going to bury that frustration deep down, and I'm going to reward that puppy for doing that correct behavior. So that way we create a black and white experience. It's, no, don't do that here. Yes, good job. This is where I want you to do it. That's the correct behavior. We do have one type of physical correction, and that's just a simple leash correction. I'm not trying to yank them around because at this stage, one, I don't want to apply a lot of pressure. I want to first teach a behavior before I implement that pressure. So this leash correction is more to regain their attention to then change their behavior, which the nice thing about leash pressure is then it easily transforms into using a prong collar or using other forms of pressure to teach your dog higher levels of obedience. But once again, first, before I start implementing too much pressure, I want to make sure that they understand what my expectations are. So remember, this is a balanced dog training program, which means you have to have both. You need that positive reinforcement so you can teach, but you have to have that correction so you can establish what your expectations are. So then our second point is that follow through. It directly correlates to being consistent. If you correct your dog and they ignore you, you have to follow through. You can't just say no and then let your dog get away with performing an incorrect behavior. So one of these that I see all the time is a recall command. So if I call my dog to come and they ignore me, I am going to get my dog. Now I'm going to calmly go and get them. I'm never going to chase after my dog. The other thing is when my dog does finally come, I'm not going to reprimand them. I want to be calm, but I want to teach them what the expected behavior is. So I will only say a command once. I expect them to follow through. If they don't, I follow up with a correction. So I'd say no, and then I'm going to enforce the behavior. So in the situation, if I called my dog to come and they ignored me, I'm going to go and get them. The tricky thing, or not the tricky thing, but the important thing is, say I did call them to come and they failed and I got 90% of the way there, and then my dog was like, oh, hey, what are you doing? And came running over to me. I will reward that behavior because I don't want to reprimand my dog for coming to me. I'm not going to get frustrated and get mad at my dog for coming to me because there's a chance that they were just so hyper-focused on whatever was going on that they didn't register that you called them. Now, there are times where a dog might blatantly push the buttons. So another good example is jumping on a couch. So we have the command off. If one of my puppies came and hopped on this couch and I said, off, and they looked at me like, well, what are you going to do about it? At that point, I mark that behavior, I say no, and I go over and remove that puppy. So I am teaching them that that is not acceptable, this is what is acceptable. So you have to follow through, because if you repeat yourself, if you just sit there and you're like, no, Fluffy, off, Fluffy, Fluffy, get off, your dog's not registering that as a correction. They just think you're barking just like they bark. So instead, the moment that they choose not to obey, I mark that behavior with that correction, and then I reinforce. It's important to remember that what you reinforce will get replicated. So reinforce good behaviors. If your dog is in control, they're sitting next to you just hanging out, I'll pet them, I'll praise them. That's what I want. I want to reinforce that behavior. So catch them doing good things. But same thing, if your dog starts to pull, immediately correct that behavior. Teach them what your expected behavior is. So be consistent, follow through, and manage your dog. So management is going to be one of the most important things you do, especially over this transition period. So that breaks down to just maintaining control. If you have control of your dog, they're not allowed to create bad habits because they're not allowed to get away with doing an incorrect behavior. So there's a couple tools that I always recommend using. So first is the crate. The crate is your biggest asset, because as you bring a puppy home, you need to maintain 100% supervision. You need to know where your puppy is at all times, what they are doing at that moment. And so there's going to be times where you cannot do that. You need to focus on your kids, or you need to focus on making dinner, or you need to go take a shower. Like in those situations, put your puppy in the crate. That way they're under control because they're contained. They're not allowed to go and sneak around the corner and have an accident or go and chew something up. Maintain that control. The other thing, baby gates. If you don't want them in a super room, or in a specific room, block it off. Close doors. Don't allow access. Remember that freedom is earned. It is not a right in your home. As you bring your puppy home, they earn that freedom. So the other thing is keep a leash attached, especially early on. Let them drag a leash around. That way you have a quick way to correct them, a quick way to get them outside if you need to. But just understand that it has to be supervised. Like you can't just let your dog off in a room, especially if they have a leash attached, because you don't want them getting tangled around something. Whereas if I'm supervising them, giving them that strict supervision, I'm going to know what they're getting into or where they're at. And so I can immediately correct a behavior, I can immediately reward a behavior. We will touch on management throughout this video because it is so intertwined with everything we do. So I hope you enjoy. Once again, if you're seeing this video, that means your puppy is finished and they've reached our standards, and I think you're going to have great success. But if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to give me a call. We want to make sure that this transition is as seamless as possible. So thanks again, we appreciate it, and I hope you enjoyed your experience with Puppy Steps training. All right, so what's going to happen now is I'm going to let Shiloh out of the crate, and we're going to go through his manners. Then we'll go through his obedience commands, his crate training, and his house training, and then lastly we'll cover our leash work, engagement, and recall. So the first manner we're going to talk about is his gates and his doorways. So anytime he comes out of a crate, we go through a closed door, or out of a kennel, any type of threshold with a closed door, I'm going to expect that Shiloh waits. He doesn't have to sit, he doesn't have to lay down, he just has to pause and show that he is in control, and then wait for that release or the word okay. Now, he's still a puppy, and we're going to be taking him from a familiar environment into an unfamiliar environment. So I'm going to prepare myself that he possibly might break. And so that's what we consider management. I'm managing this behavior. So when I open a new door or his crate for the first time at home, I'm just going to prepare myself. And if he does try and step out, even one paw, I'm going to either lift up my leg and block him, use that leash to give him a simple correction, or I might just simply close the door again. This should be an automatic behavior, so I'm not going to tell him wait or stay, but if he does try and slip through, I will tell him no. Now, if he does slip through, if he runs through this house door and gets outside, I am going to tell him no, I'm going to go and get him, and I am going to do that behavior again. I am never going to allow Shiloh to end on an incorrect behavior. Even if I feel really silly, it's really important that we always follow through and we always end on a success. So I'm going to pull him out now, and you can see him coming out of the crate. So in doing so, I'm positioning my body that if he does try and slip a paw out, I can simply close that door. His head is okay, but paws are not. No. That's my bad. I did say okay, huh? Okay, good boy. Good boy. Good boy. Yeah. So this does apply if we go through this house door. Once again, I'm positioning myself that if he tried to slip through, I could use that leash to give him a simple correction, or I could lift up my leg and block him. Okay, good boy. Now we'll turn around and come right back inside. Okay. Now you'll also notice I'm not giving him a treat for this. Going through that threshold or going outside or coming back in is a reward in itself. He doesn't get to come in or go out unless he shows that he is in control. Good boy, good boy. What he's doing right here is what we consider his greeting. So anytime Shiloh wants my attention, he's got to sit in order to get that. I'm never going to reward him for jumping or for running around. So if he wants my attention, he's got to be planted. He's looking up at me, showing that he is in control. Good boy. Good boy. Now, this is a really important behavior because one, Shiloh's going to be a big guy. We don't want him jumping up on people. We don't want him jumping up on us or taking out our legs. So this is kind of that first step of developing that calm and in control. This is also going to be one of the behaviors that you work on the most for the next couple days. What you're going to do, and we consider this an engagement exercise, so you're going to take a handful of treats, you're going to take that leash, I'm going to walk backwards, say his name, and then wait for him to sit. Now, the first couple times that you do this, if he doesn't automatically give you that greeting because he's still developing this relationship, I will ask for it. But then I'm going to quickly wean him off of that because this is an expected behavior, and this is one that I really want to settle in. Once again, it is a replacement behavior for jumping. So what that looks like is I'll just say, Shiloh. I'll take a few steps back. Okay, good boy. Wait for him to sit. Shiloh. Good boy. Okay, good boy. Shiloh. Okay. So this is just driving that point home that if I call him over, if I say his name or he wants to get my attention, he has to sit in order to do that. Once he shows that he's in control, then I can go down and pet him, I can love on him. And you're also going to expect this behavior when we're meeting strangers. Now, he's obviously not going to just immediately sit for every stranger. That is something that needs built up. So when a stranger does approach you and asks if they can pet your dog or meet your dog, I will say yes, as long as he's in control. So first I'm going to get him in control. So I might, Shiloh, come here. Get him in control. He sits. I go down and pet him because I'm more important than that stranger. Once he shows that he's in control, then I can invite that person over. They can come and greet my dog. But if he gets out of control and wants to jump, I may tell them no. It's more important to me that my dog is in control than strangers petting him. Oh, good boy. Good boy. Good boy. Along with sitting to get my attention, he also has to show that he's in control, sit and wait for his food. So anytime I feed Shiloh, I expect him to hold a sit stay. This is another behavior that should be automatic. As you notice, I grabbed that bowl, he immediately sat down. So if he didn't, I might just shake that a little bit. Then I can set the bowl down, and he's looking to me for information. I'm going to release him when I'm ready. Now, if he breaks, I might pick that up and reset. Okay, good boy, good boy. Now, Shiloh will inhale his food, so we have been using a slow feeder with him on occasion, just trying to slow him down. I will also use his meal as a very valuable training time. I do that by I might take it away and do that sit stay a few times. Or I might also use his kibble as his training treats and break that up for the next 30 minutes or so. Come here. Now once again, if I set this down and he broke, I'm just going to pick that back up. Okay, good boy. Now, I'm not going to do that all the time. I don't think that we need to sit there and take our dog's food away. I'm not telling him, hey, this is mine, I'm the alpha here. But I do want to spend time handling him every once in a while. I will throw a treat in his food bowl just to show that it's a positive thing, me being around. I don't want him to develop any type of resource guarding, which he hasn't shown any of that. He's been really good. Good boy, good boy. Huh. Good boy. Now, we've spent a great deal of time just making sure that we go through some aggression prevention. So I don't want him to get defensive over me handling his food or his chews or his toys or even his body. So I handle him like they would at a vet or a groomer. I'm going to handle his ears. We're going to handle his paws. We've spent a lot of time brushing him, clipping nails, handling ears, his face and his teeth. Oh yeah, which right now you are super excited. But I want to make sure that he's not going to get aggressive, especially because little kids, if they're around, sometimes they grab a hold of the tail. I don't want my dog to get aggressive. Now also, I am going to be an advocate for my dog in those situations. I don't want to put him in a position where he feels like he needs to defend himself, basically. So I want to make sure that I am that advocate for my dog and for the kids. And that's also where toys play a huge role. Because anytime kids are around my dog, I want them to have a toy available, because that way if they get scared, they can throw the toy and redirect Shiloh to an appropriate behavior. Good boy. Shiloh. Come here. Oh. Okay, good boy, good boy. Shiloh loves to play. He has a great toy drive. So I use those toys as a means to reward quite a bit. I also like to play with him and just make sure that he's okay with me handling his toys. Yeah? Huh? So you'll see that he'll let me take it. He doesn't fight me. Now, even when we're playing, good boy, I expect him to release his toys on command. So that is that drop it command. Good boy. Drop it. Good boy, good boy. Now when I'm playing with toys, I personally like to have my hand on it when I ask him to drop it. I want him to bring it to hand. That is something to work up to. He is a puppy, so I'm not going to expect that right away. But even still, if he has something he's not supposed to, I can ask him to drop it and I expect him to spit it out. Come here. Come over here. Oh boy. Now he just wants me to play. Can you pick it up? Can you play with it? Huh? Huh? Good boy. Shiloh, drop it. Good boy. Huh? Now if I ask him to drop it and he spits it out and then he tries to grab it again, that's where that little correction came in. It was just a because if I ask him to drop it, he's not allowed to get it until I say okay. Good boy. I'll try and get that actually in the camera. Come here. Shiloh, drop it. No. So he let go of it, but then he tried to still chew on the ear. So that's where that simple correction. Huh. I'm going to move his bed closer because that's where he wants to go. Shiloh, drop it. Good boy, good boy. Now, if he ever has something that he just doesn't want to let go of, one, yanking it around like this is not an effective way to take something away from your dog. In fact, it does the opposite. You're just playing tug. So, and I can play tug with him, but he's got to know that I win. He doesn't get to just rip it out of my hand and run away. So Shiloh, drop it. Good boy, okay, good boy. But if I needed to get something out of his mouth, instead, I might take that object on both sides and just kind of rotate my knuckles in. Or just grab it close to his mouth and hold it still. Once it's, limp, then a lot of times they just spit it out. But if he had something and he didn't want to let it go, I'm just going to reach around his muzzle and rotate those lips over his teeth. Yeah. And that way, if he's going to bite down, he's going to bite his own teeth, or his own lips. Good boy, good boy. Huh, huh, huh. So yeah, that's drop it. Now, I'm trying to make sure I cover all my manners. So we've taught Shiloh to have a soft mouth. Come here. Yeah, you are just wound up this morning, huh? So even with a toy, a bully stick, a treat, anything like that, if I ask him to be gentle, so the command is gently, I expect him to take it politely. I don't want him eating my hand. So for the toy, if he reared up and tried to grab it, I'd pull it away and say gently. Gently. Good boy, good boy. And I expect him to be cautious. Once again, I don't want him biting my hand or nipping fingers. Good boy, good boy. You're kind of ignoring me with that toy, huh? Shiloh, drop it. Good boy, good boy. Now, where I'm going to take this toy away, I am going to reward him because he's not going to get it back. Good boy. So even with a treat, I can tell him gently, and I expect him to be very soft. Now, I give it to him between my thumb and forefinger just to demonstrate that he's going to be soft. For the most part, I always give a dog a treat in the palm of my hand, and then I tuck it underneath my thumb. So I don't know that you can see that, but that way I control that treat and he can't get it unless he's being soft. Good boy. Yeah, if those paws come off the ground, I'm going to reset. I'm going to tell him gently. He's not allowed to get a treat unless he is planted with all 4 paws. Come here. This is a big thing with jumping. Sometimes puppies, they won't jump, but they'll rear up. And rearing up is going to lead to jumping. So we tell him gently, he does not get a treat unless all 4 paws are on the ground. Now let's talk about jumping. So if he were to try and jump up on me, that command is off. So I'm going to say that in a firm voice, and I expect him to get down. Now if he's running towards me and he jumps up, I'm going to step into him and bring my knee up and block him. He does not get to get, he doesn't get to my face. He doesn't get to put paws on me. So I'm going to block him, tell him no off, and I'm going to wait for him to show that he is in control. If he wants my attention, he has to sit. Now if he tried to jump up from behind, I'm just going to lift my heel and block him, wait for control. Wait for him to show that he's in control. I'm never going to reward him for jumping up. Said it's off, knock him back. Now, if he's jumping up at my face and I'm doing this, I'm encouraging jumping. No, don't jump, don't jump. That's showing him that, hey, if I keep doing this, I'm going to get rewarded. So he's never allowed to get any positive attention if he is jumping. I will give him a quick correction, no off, wait for that sit, and then I'll give him that attention. If he tries to jump up on another person and I have a hold of the leash, that's where I'm going to use those 2 leash pops. Pop, pop, get him down, get his focus on me, wait for that greeting, then we can try again. But he does not get any attention if he is jumping. If he tries to jump up on the couch, no off, I expect him to fix his mistake. If he doesn't, I'm going to go and get him. I'm always going to follow through if I ask him not to jump. Or if I ask him anything, I'm always going to follow through. Good boy. So I'm going to give Shiloh something to chew on right here. And this is kind of feels like it's probably a little out of place. But I realized as we moved on to the commands that I forgot to talk about chewing. So Shiloh has not lost a lot of his teeth. So he is going to need to chew. He's in that heavy teething phase. And so chewing is a behavior you cannot escape. So one, it's important to give him things to chew on throughout the day. If you don't give him things to do, then he's going to go find something to do, and you are never going to like what he finds. Now, when he does find something to chew on, and maybe it's something he's not supposed to, I'm going to tell him no, and I'm going to replace it with something of equal texture, because he's going to be chewing based on what he feels like his mouth needs. So if he wants to chew on like a table leg or baseboards, I'm going to give him something hard like that bully stick, something that he can really dig into. If he starts chewing on something soft like a blanket, a towel, a soft bed, I'm going to give him something soft, something that maybe will actually pull that tooth out. He wants to chew on his leash or on shoelaces, give him a rope. So really just try and match that texture, that consistency. That way we're meeting his needs. And once again, when I have downtimes, I'm just going to give him something to chew on. Also, don't be surprised when he is chewing on something and you find some blood. That's just him losing some teeth. But this is also why 100% supervision is going to be so important, because once again, heavy teething phase, and he is learning what he's allowed to chew on and what he's not. So I'm going to give him something to chew on. I'm going to replace whatever he wants to chew on with something that's appropriate. We call that marking and redirecting. So I'm marking the incorrect behavior, telling him no, redirecting him into an appropriate behavior. So simple corrections, give him something to do. That's super duper important. With that, now we will move on. All right, so for our obedience commands, we're going to start out with our 3 hand signals, which we have sit, which is that little scoop over the nose, palm is up, fingers closed, down, which I take my palm flat next to my body, hold there, palm down, that is the down command. If he hesitates, then I can lower my body, but I'm never going to ask for that command again. I'm going to wait him out. No, if he scoots forward, I'm going to slide him back. Good boy. Shiloh, every once in a while, will play this game where he's like, I don't think you're asking me to lay down. Let me see what's in your hand. So it is important that that treat is never in this hand. So I'm asking him down, waiting for him to comply. There's some days where he just does it really, really fast, and other days where he wants to make sure He wants to make sure that you're actually asking for a down and you don't mean come closer. So, and then stay his palm out, and I'll ask for that stay. Where he lay down, stay. Now remember, these commands are a command. It's not a question. I'm not going to say stay. I'm not going to draw that out. It's stay. Same thing. Down. It's not down because it's not a question. It's a command. Okay, good boy. Good boy. Good boy. Now he is doing phenomenal sit and down stays. He's doing 20 seconds easy with pretty moderate distractions. Don't be satisfied with any of these. Always work to build that up. Also, I make a habit of anytime I'm working on stays, whether that's just a down stay on the ground or a place command or anything like that, I'm coming back and I'm going to tell him good when we're really stretching those out. And I'm going to reward him for staying in place. So, Shiloh, come here. I'll lead him over. Sit. Stay. Now, if I put him in a sit stay and he lays down, I'm completely fine with that. But he is not allowed to pop up out of a down stay. Good boy, good boy. So you can see using that intermediary marker. Okay, good boy. So obviously this is some pretty simple distractions right here. Sit. Down. See palm flat? No. If he stands up, I'm going to give him that simple correction. Down. Good. Stay. The other thing that we've been doing with Shiloh is adding just a little bit of leash pressure. So you notice how he has this short leash on. If he was being sticky, if he's really just hesitating, I'll step on that leash and just kind of pull it back towards my body, just creating a little bit of pressure. And a lot of times he'll just lay down that way. But if he doesn't, then I'll bring my other foot on top and step down on that. Ooh, that one got close. Good boy, good boy. Okay, yeah, that was a good one, huh? So just to show you what I mean here, so I'm gonna ask him sit. So this leash, if I told him down and he just wanted to stand there and he's looking at me like, I don't know what that is, then I'll hold my hand there, but I'm just gonna pull that leash towards me just a little bit, just creates a little bit of pressure. See, and I didn't have to step on it. Good boy, okay. But once again, I'm never going to allow him just to get frustrated and quit, nor do I want to get frustrated. So if I can tell that he's just struggling for whatever reason today, we don't know what's going on within his little mind, so I might make it easy for him and then just reward that quick behavior and end there. I will always end on a correct behavior, but if he breaks 3 times, clearly something is going on that it's just too hard. Doesn't matter whether he did it yesterday or 2 hours ago, whatever's going on, it's too hard. Good boy. So I'm just going to make it easy and reward him for simple victories. I always want to reward simple victories, and I want to give my dog lots of feedback. Good boy, Shiloh. Okay, place. So the place command, I'm going to be close to it because the place command is universal. We've worked a lot with these elevated beds, so that's a really defined boundary and really easy for him to understand. But if I was doing like this mat, or if I had a towel out, you know, those are a little bit harder. They're flat. There's not as much of a noticeable change in like elevation or texture. But there obviously is a boundary, so I can use that as a place. But I'm going to be close, and maybe the first time I'm going to help him understand that that's what I'm asking for. So I might kind of lure him on, mark when all 4 paws are there, and then quickly release him and then reset. But as far as like doing it on this bed, which is a lot easier, he's doing a few minutes, he's settling in. Now with me just talking over him, every once in a while I'm going to come over and say, good boy. I'll give him the treat when he's on there, but not when he comes off. I don't want to build a charge. Okay, good boy, Shiloh, good boy. I will pet him, reward him for doing the right thing. Shiloh, place. Good boy. Now we're going to add a little heavier distraction. I'm going to come over here and grab a bowl and get some water. sometimes if a dog thinks that you're not paying attention or you forgot about him, that's when they want to break. So I'll come over and reward him. Good boy. Now if he broke, if he took even one paw off, I would just, no, and I will reset him. Okay, good boy. Now I'm going to let him see if he needs a drink where I got that out. Build this one up. Build all the commands up. Don't be satisfied with where they're at, but the place command is really easy for a dog to understand, and you can get them doing, hour, 2 hour stays on their place. You can really replace the crate if you're consistent at it. You've got to be consistent though, and you've got to continue to work at it. Now, the crate command is very similar. Now, once again, I'm not going to ask him 10 feet away, especially to start. Instead, I'm going to get close so that he can read my body language. Shiloh, crate, and I'm just going to point. Now, if he were to hesitate, I might simply tap on top. Once again, he gets a treat when he goes in, but not when he comes out. That release is the reward. And his head is all right, paws are not. Okay, good boy. Good boy. Shiloh, crate. Now we have been building this up to where we are stepping a little further away. Okay. Okay, good boy. But I'm still using my body language. So Shiloh, crate, so that he is reading my body language. Once again, you can build this up to where you're anywhere in the house, but that takes time and it takes consistency. Continue to work on this command and practice it a lot. You don't want to just use this command when you lock him up for the night or when you're leaving. Otherwise, he's going to figure that out. Okay. And he's not going to want to go in anymore because he associates it with you leaving. So we want to make it positive. We want to practice a lot. Good boy. So the last command that we're going to cover here is a leave it command. So we're going to make it pretty hard. I'm going to use the treats that I've been allowing him to eat, but I'm going to get something more like a high value reward so that the reward is better than what he's leaving behind. So when I practice this command with treats or food, something that is a little bit more tempting, I'm going to have that leash so that I have a way to follow through. So we're going to show him, looky here, that I got this treat. I'm going to drop it on the ground, and I'm going to kind of call him over. Come here. Leave it. Now, if he kind of hesitated, I give him just a little pop on that leash, a little pressure. No. Good boy. He's sniffing it, but I don't even want him to sniff it. I want him to ignore that treat. Good boy. And I'm going to reward him for continually leaving it. Good boy. You can see how he's kind of watching it, but he's not lunging for it. He's not trying to quickly eat it as we walk past. Good boy. Come here. No, leave it. Now we're going to, good boy, good boy. So once again, this is another one I'm going to practice a lot, and I use leave it for things that I can take away from Shiloh or I can take Shiloh away from. So this is roadkill. This is something that you spilled on the floor, something that you're going to clean up. This is not permanent objects. Permanent objects is just a no. Good boy, good boy. And then I can take it away. So that is the obedience commands. And now we're going to talk about his crate training and house training. All right, so I'm going to have Shiloh just hang out on the bed with me while we talk about crate training, and then we'll go into house training. So we spent a great deal of time with the crate training. We've made it so the crate is a positive experience. It is a place where he can relax and just go to sleep. So he's not having accidents, nor is he having vocal outbursts or whining, barking, any of that. This is both day and night. So at night, Shiloh is sleeping from 10 to 6. He's been doing great, no problem. However, first night home is usually going to be a little bit stressful. So it's not a bad idea just to set an alarm for like 1 a.m., take him for a quick little bathroom break, and then he goes right back in the crate. During that time, we're not playing, we're not getting water or food. I'm not even giving him a treat for going to the bathroom. It's you go to the bathroom, you go right back in. That should just be for the first night, and then I would expect him to go back to just sleeping 8 hours, no problem. Now, if you need to adjust the schedule, do it slowly. This is the routine that he's been in while he's here. So we're not just gonna quickly change it and expect him to go 8 hours. If you need to change it, do it slowly. Also understand that at 6 o'clock in the morning, he's gonna be getting ready to get out. He's gonna need to go to the bathroom and be ready to run around. And that's when puppies have the most energy, is right when we're winding down or waking up. So be understanding to that, and he'll do great. So once again, he's sleeping through the night, not having accidents. Shiloh, being the short-coated little guy he is, we have been giving him stuff to chew on, or not to chew on, sorry, stuff to lay on in the crate like a towel. But if he starts to chew on it, I am gonna take that away. I do not want him destroying stuff in the crate, but I do want him to be warm, and he likes to be warm and cozy. So I would start out with like a towel, something that you're not gonna mind if he does kind of rip the tag off or chew on a corner in the middle of the night. Obviously, I don't want him doing that, but while you're asleep, we never know what's gonna happen. That's a big reason why most puppies, I do not put anything in their crate until they are through that chewing phase. But Shiloh has been really good about it. Hi, buddy. So as you can see, where he's not gonna wanna chew, I'm gonna stick him in the crate. Good boy. Now, I put him in the crate, once again, through the night and during the day. During the day, I put him in there when I'm home, as well as when I'm away. I don't want him thinking that I need to be in the same room as him if he's gonna be in the crate. Once again, he's good for 4 hours, but you can put him in there shorter amounts of time. Sometimes it might just be 30 seconds while I run to the bathroom. Once again, the crate is your biggest management tool. So now if I put him in here and he started to whine, initially I'm gonna ignore that behavior. I'm not gonna give him any positive attention if he's whining. I'll ignore it for a few minutes. If it doesn't stop, then I will go and get a blanket and I will cover this crate. Dogs are like parrots that if they can't see out, they settle down a little bit quicker. If he continued to whine, then I would tell him hush. Now we're way past that with Shiloh. At most, you might put that blanket on and knock on his crate and tell him hush. But I would expect him to be good. Now, dogs do very, very well with routines. But the one thing to be aware of, if you put him in the crate the exact same time during the day, like if it needs to be from 11 to 3, that's fine, but I would make a habit of maybe putting him in there a few minutes before you leave, or getting him out a few minutes after you get home, so you're not building this charge. For some reason, dogs can tell time, and if they're like, oh, you should have been home 15 minutes ago, sometimes the dog will start to whine, or the moment you walk in the door, they're like, oh, you need to let me out, and they're gonna start whining, maybe pawing at the crate, anything like that. We don't wanna build a charge. So if he's making noise at all, he does not get to come out of the crate. I'm gonna tell him hush, and I'm gonna wait for at least 10 seconds of silence. A lot of times I will leave the room just to make sure that he's not just being quiet because I'm right there. So that includes at night. If he starts whining in the middle of the night and you think, I bet he needs to go to the bathroom, I'm not gonna rush down and hurry and open that door, because then I'm gonna build this charge and I'm gonna teach him, oh, if I throw a temper tantrum, they're gonna let me out. So even if I think that he's about to have an accident, I'm gonna tell him hush. I might wait for 5 or 10 seconds of silence, maybe step back, be like, can you be under control? Okay, let's go. And then we'll hurry and get him outside. But I do not wanna teach him that if he makes noise, that I'm gonna run to his aid. I do wanna be sensitive to the fact that maybe he needs to go to the bathroom, but then it's, you gotta be quiet, we're gonna go out, we're gonna use the bathroom, then we're going right back in. Now, with the crate training at night, it is important, especially in this puppy stage as he's transitioning, that we stick to man, I apologize, I cannot speak right now. It is important that we stick to a strict schedule when it comes to food and water. So we have been feeding him about 6:30 in the morning and 6 o'clock at night. The morning doesn't matter near as much. I get him out, we go to the bathroom, and then we feed him. But at night, I want that final meal to be done by 6 p.m. and that way he's got that 4 hours to completely clear his system. I want to make sure that he poops before we go to bed at night. With the water, I give him water several times throughout the day, but I am going to manage that. I'm not going to give him unlimited access for the first 2 weeks, because a stressed out puppy sometimes will engorge themselves and then they've got to pee every 5 minutes, and we don't want that. So instead, I'll give it to him throughout the day, but then I'm going to make sure that water is taken away by 8 p.m. That way, you got 2 hours there that we can flush all the fluids out. He will be fine. You don't have to worry about giving him water right before he goes to bed. Otherwise, he may have an accident or need to get up in the middle of the night. So I don't want my dog to be dehydrated, but I do want to make sure that I control that water so that I can control his bladder. But take it away by 8, and then right before bed, if I'm going to put him to bed at 10, at like 9:45, we're going for a walk. We're going to go outside. I'm going to get him to run around, give him the opportunity to go to the bathroom. I don't want him staring up at me and we're just walking around right outside the door and he's so focused on me that he doesn't actually go both 1 and 2. If you can get him to run around, then he's going to be much more likely to go number 2, and then you're ready for the night. So that's crate training. As you can see, he's really good in the crate. He's comfortable. That's kind of his safe space. So, and once again, you're going to use that crate as an asset when it comes to house training. So with that, we are going to move into house training. So Shiloh has been doing fantastic with his house training. He hasn't been having accidents. He's had full access here. He's actively seeking out the bells on his own and going outside to go to the bathroom. So we're super happy with where he's at. However, we've got to understand that now he's leaving this familiar environment, going to an unfamiliar environment. Because of that, he's going to be under some stress. Stress can cause regression, but regression doesn't mean accidents. Regression means that we, as the dog handler, are going to understand that he's going to have to go to the bathroom more frequently, so we're going to give him ample opportunities. We're going to provide 100% supervision so that he doesn't have an opportunity to have an accident in the house. And really by doing those 2 things, this house training is going to transition super smooth. So 100% supervision, most important thing. If he is outside of the crate, we have active eyes on him. We know what he is doing at all times. We know what he could get into, where he's at, what he's chewing on, all of it. Okay. If he slips around the corner and has a little accident and we find it 5 minutes later, an hour later, there is nothing we can do. He does not understand why you're mad or why you're correcting him. So if he is going to have an accident, it needs to be right in front of me. That way I can correct that behavior. No, 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 no. I grab him and we go outside. Once we get outside, I change my voice. Sometimes we're still frustrated, but we're going to bury that frustration deep down. And I'm going to say outside. And once he goes, I'm going to reward that behavior. So that way I create a black and white experience. No, do not pee there. Yes, get outside. Good boy. Now, it is very, very important that we correct him for going there and we go outside with him. We cannot just kick him outside. If we do that, then he's realizing, hey, I just had an accident, but now I get to go outside and play. And there's not a clear connection there. So that's why it's so important that we go outside with him, and then either somebody else can clean up the accident or we'll worry about it in a few minutes when we come back in. But 100% supervision. If you cannot give him that supervision, put him in a crate. The crate, once again, your biggest asset. It only takes him 20 seconds to pee, and so we do not want him to have an accident out of sight. We want to make sure that we see that. So if you need to go to the bathroom, put him in the crate, take him with you. But 100% supervision is the biggest part of house training. We're also just going to be paranoid. If I think, he's sniffing pretty heavily or he's panting, maybe he needs to go, I'm just going to take him out. I would much rather take Shiloh out 10 times than clean up 1 accident. So trust your gut, be paranoid. If you think that he's got to go, give him the opportunity. That way we can avoid him having an accident and we can just start off on the right foot. Now, I'm going to give you a strict schedule with the house training. It's the same as it was before, but this is not because he's going to need to, he's not going to need to go every 30 minutes, which is what you're going to do the first day. He's not going to have to go this frequently. But this is to establish a routine and a pattern and to get ahead of his bladder schedule. So the very first day you have him home, the first 24 hours, if he is outside of the crate or awake, then we are going to take him over to the bells, have him ring him, and go outside every 30 minutes. If he is in the crate, I'm not going to worry about pulling him out every 30 minutes. Or if he's just passed out on his bed, I'll just wait until he wakes up. But if he is out and he is wandering that first 24 hours, every 30 minutes we are going to take a quick trip to the bathroom. Day 2, the next 24 hours, I'm going to up that 15 minutes. So once again, if he's outside, he's in your house, every 45 minutes I'm taking him to the bells, we're going outside. Day 3, I'm going to an hour. Every hour, taking him over to the bells, he rings them, we go outside and give him the opportunity to go to the bathroom. Now, for those first 3 days, anytime that he touches the bells, I am going to give him a treat. I'm going to tell him, okay, outside, and reward that behavior because I want him seeking the bells out. Now, don't be surprised if he doesn't actively seek them out on his own for the first 2 weeks, and that's just because we're taking him out so much that we're beating him to the punch. But now, for the next 4 days, so we're going to finish out the week, we're going to stay at 1 hour. But I am no longer going to give him a treat for ringing the bells. Instead, he only gets a treat when he goes to the bathroom. But for a full week, he is not being let out in the house without going to the bathroom every hour. The next week, I'm going to gradually work up to 2 hours. Now, that's where every dog house trains differently. You can do that still by 15-minute increments, or you can just jump up to an hour and a half and then 2 hours, whatever you feel like is best. So if we go to an hour and a half and in an hour and 15 minutes, I'm like, oh, you need to go to the bathroom, then I might knock that down a little bit. Or if he's not going and you've taken him out like 3 times, maybe bump him up to 2 hours. But I will always be quick to take away time or freedom and very slow to give it. I would much rather take it slow, be paranoid for this to transition over. I just want to give it that time. Freedom is always earned in your home. It is not a right just because you went through training. If he rings the bells, we are going outside to the bathroom. Even if we were just out there 15 minutes ago, I'm still going to take him out and then we're going to turn around and come back in. I will never let him play outside if he rings the bells. Even if maybe we were walking over to the door, we were going to go outside and throw a ball and he runs ahead and rings those bells, I'll go, okay, outside. We'll take him out to the bathroom, come back in, wait maybe 10 or 15 seconds, and then go back out. But I'll skip the bells if I'm going to go and play. Because even if we're already outside, if he rang the bells, it is just for the bathroom, nothing else. When I'm taking him to the bathroom, 3 minutes tops. That's all he needs. Any longer than that, he's going to get distracted and he's going to forget why we're out there. I do not need to, if he rang the bells, I don't need to spend 30 minutes outside. Now, if you're playing with him and just trying to get him to poop, like right before bed, I'll go out there and play fetch or get him to run around. Sure, then you can take a little bit more time. But if you had him ring the bells or he rang the bells on his own, 3 minutes tops. No more. And you should be good. And the first day when you're taking him out every 30 minutes, you don't need to spend a full three minutes out there. You can probably just get away with 1. So that's the schedule. If you have any questions, call me. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull Shiloh out and I'm going to show you how to get him to target the bells. The first time we do this, it's off the door. I'm just getting him to touch it, making it exciting. It's a fun game, easy for him to get treats. And then I'll go over and hang him on the door. So I'm going to let him out. Okay. Good boy. I know, that wasn't a very long nap, huh? Okay. So once again, I'm going to remove the bells. And I'll just step on his leash, have him be right here in front of me. I'll lower the bells where they're not too far from him. And then I am going to reward every time he touches them. Okay, good boy. I'm going to do this, 4 or 5 times. Okay, good boy. And I'm just going to stare at the bells. Okay, good boy. I'm never going to hit him with the bells. Okay, good boy, good boy. So now we're going to take them over and I'm going to set them on the door. And same thing, other than now. Okay, outside, good boy. Okay, outside, good boy. Do it about 3 times. Okay, outside. Now I'm going to take him out. He expected to wait at the doorway. Okay. Outside. Okay, good outside, good boy. Okay. Now, when I take him outside, once again, 3 minutes tops, I'm going to keep him walking around. Now, I'll take him to the area that I want him to go, but I don't want him sitting down. I don't want him rolling or picking something up to chew on. It's just we're going to walk around until I'm outside, and I'm going to give him the opportunity to go. If he's sniffing, I know he's looking for a spot to go. If he just wants to sit down and look up at you, he must not need to go. We're going to go back inside. If you went out and you were like, he's got to go, like you just felt that he needed to go, you were out there for 3 minutes and he was just distracted, I would bring him in, I'd put him in the crate, wait 20 to 30 minutes, and then go out and try it again. So once again, he's been doing awesome. If you have questions, please let me know. But now I'm gonna move the camera around and we're gonna show you his leash work, engagement, and recall. All right, so the first part that we're gonna talk about is his heel. So the heel is for you. This is a very structured walk. This is when he needs to be by my side in this little radius. He needs to maintain focus on me. He's not allowed to sniff. He's not allowed to pull. This is when we're getting through crowds of people. Maybe a distraction's coming at us. Maybe we're going through a store. Anything like that. That is when I use the heel. This is not how you exercise your dog. It is not fair to your dog to make them stare at you for 30 minutes. So we do this in short bursts. I mix this in a lot with our long lead walks. But this is, once again, a focused heel. This is also an expensive task because you are making him hold his attention onto you. So I'm going to pay him out. I give my dog a lot of feedback when we're in a heel. People probably think I'm crazy, but I'm just talking to him. I'm just telling, good boy, good boy, good boy, the whole time that we're heeling because I need his focus. Once again, this is for you getting through distractions when you just need your dog's focus and he's not allowed to sniff anything. So when I do this, I tell him heel. I expect him to follow my pace and look up at me. When I stop, I expect him to stop and to sit. So what this looks like is I'll just tell him heel. Good boy. So you can see that he's walking by my knee. Good boy. And I'm going to pay him. Now, for us, right now, his heel, I'm rewarding him every 10 to 20 seconds. When you first start this, I would reward him more frequently. Good boy. I would reward him heavily when he is looking at you. Good boy. So once again, he's by my side. He's looking up at me. Good boy. I'm going to reward him. Now, if I stop, I'll give him just a little pressure up. He's expected to sit. Good boy. Good boy. Now, I do reward him for sitting next to me in this situation. Anytime we stop on a walk, I want him sitting next to me, not in front of me. That way I can walk without having a dog in my way. If I need to change directions, I'm going to give him a little bit of leash pressure. If I'm stepping this way, I'll give him a little leash pressure towards my body. If I'm going into him, I'll give him a little leash pressure back. That way I'm not just kneeing him in the head. But I'm also not going to be afraid to kind of walk through him. That way he knows that he's got to kind of slide back and get out of the way. Good. Now during this heel, I'll also use different ways to get his attention. You can use watch me, kissy noises, just anything to make some noise and get him to focus on you. And once again, the moment that he makes eye contact, especially if you're with a heavy distraction, reward that behavior. He is never, never, never allowed to pull on a heel or on a leash in general. But his heel is, once again, that's for you getting through distractions. That is not to exercise your dog. That is not fair to your dog, nor will it exercise him. So heel. Good boy. Now, come on. Good boy. He's got to match my pace. Good boy. Good boy. Nope. And I can give him just a little pressure back. Expect him to sit. Good boy. Now, if he starts to pull, if he just gets a little distracted, kind of gets out, come here, gets out to where he's looking that way, and he's not really pulling, but he's also not focusing on you, and he causes a little tension in the leash, I'm just going to tell him no, give him a couple quick pops. Now, these pops are not yanking him back. I'm not trying to inflict harm. It's just a flick of the wrist to regain his attention to then change his behavior. Also, I'm not going to give him this entire leash. Now this is a short leash, this is 4 feet, so there's not a lot of space, but I'm not going to give him all 4 feet. Instead, I'm going to cinch it so that basically I just have a slight J in there. That way I can give him a quick correction. So just gets a little distracted, it's just, hey, knock it off. No, a couple little pops. If he actually started to pull or he saw another dog and kind of started to get reactive, which I'm going to talk about in just a second, then I'm going to tell him no, give him a couple firm pops. Now, if he looks up at me and we start to walk politely again, reward that behavior. But what I'm not going to do is no, pop, pop, okay, and then he starts pulling again. I don't want this game of I can pull to get treats. So there's got to be a distinguish. Wow, I just said the wrong word and forgot the word I was thinking of. You got to differentiate between that. So I can correct him, get in control, you're in control, okay, now I'll reward you. Now, if you corrected him twice, you said no, popped his leash, and then he continued to pull, clearly it's not working, that's too heavy of a distraction. That's when I incorporate turn around and walk away. So do this if you're approaching a distraction or someone's approaching you and he gets real excited, he starts to pull, didn't listen to your pops, then it's, if you're not going to listen, I'm turning and walking away and we're getting further towards whatever you wanted to get towards. And that's when I quicken my pace. So I'm going really quick. As soon as he regains his focus, I turn back around. As soon as he loses his focus, I turn back around. So it's just a quick little back and forth, and sometimes I'll zigzag. No. Also, he's not allowed to wrap me up in the leash. I'm not going to allow him to walk around me. So if he was pulling, he just wasn't focused, then I would, no. Come on. Good boy. Good boy. He gains his focus. We're turning back. The other thing you'll notice is, if possible, nope, I'm going to walk through him. Nope. So I'm using my body language to direct him. No. And he just wants these treats that are ground on the floor. Oh. But he does not get to dictate where we go, who we see, and he never gets to pull. So that's our levels to pulling. And they're very similar to engagement, which engagement is what we do when my dog gets reactive. Now, every dog is reactive, but they display reactivity in different ways. Some dogs have more of a fear-based reactivity, and they want to go the opposite direction. Some dogs, especially if they don't have a relationship with you yet, they want to act like they're high and mighty and they need to protect themselves. So either way, whatever's causing him to be reactive, I am going to engage with him to show him that he doesn't need to be reactive and that he can trust me as his handler. Good boy, good boy. I do this anytime, whether they're barking, maybe they just start to raise their hackles and they act like they're this tough guy, or they want to scram and go the other way. So, steps of engagement. First things first is I'm just going to tell him to knock it off. So no, pop, pop. Once he looks at me, I'll reward that behavior. The biggest key here is remaining calm. If you're anxious or nervous, your dog is going to read that. They are going to be anxious and nervous. No. And that's when you're going to get more of a reactive dog. Hey, sit, stay. So, real quick, I'm going to cut in here. If you were on a walk and he's doing this, he's like, you're clearly not paying attention to me, maybe you're talking to somebody, and he keeps wanting to try and go around you, I am not going to allow that. Instead, I'm going to give him something to do. So I just put him in a sit-stay. No. Good. And I'll reward him as he continues to stay. For some reason, people do not want to break their eye contact if they're talking to someone. Said they would rather circle around and let their dog roam while they're talking. They don't want to stop and just correct their dog or give them something to do. So I corrected him, I put him in a sit-stay, now he has a job, and I will pay him for continuing to do that job. So, there's that. So now going back to engagement. First things first, tell him no, tell him to knock it off, reward him for being in control. I will allow him to watch, I will allow him to look, as long as he is in control. He can't be pulling, he can't be barking, he can't be growling. If he is just watching, that's fine. And every time he looks up at me, I'm rewarding him because he's noticing a distraction, but then he's shifting his focus back to me, looking for what he's supposed to do. Good boy. So I will reward that behavior. We call it the art of doing nothing. But that is my first go-to if my dog starts to get reactive, is knock it off, There's nothing to be worried about. Now, if he was just adamant on getting towards whatever it was, at that point I'm going to tell him no, and now I'm going to walk through him and I'm going to get distance between whatever the distraction is and us. I will do what it takes to get my dog's focus back on me. So walking away, putting myself in between us and the distraction, by putting my back towards that distraction, I'm showing him I am not worried, you should not be either. Now, if he kept trying to do this dodge around game, that's when I'll bend down and I'm going to get right in my dog's face. Good boy, and I'm going to force him to engage with me. I am not going to allow him to zigzag around me. Instead, I'll pop that leash, bring him back, and this is where I might, once I get his attention, once he showed that he's willing to look at me, then I'll throw in, watch me. Okay, good boy. And I'll reward just that flicker of eye contact. Good boy. I might ask him for a simple sit or a down, but simple behaviors. I'm not looking for stays. It's just, hey, focus on me. Good boy. And that's all we're doing. So it would literally, if he was pulling, no, knock it off. You can look at me. Good boy. Oh, you're not paying attention? Okay, we're getting distance. I'm going to put my back towards the distraction. Hey, Shiloh, good boy. If he wants to zigzag around me, bend down, engulf him. Now, if he shows that he's in control, then I'm going to start taking steps away. Or if the distraction passes, then we can just go on our merry way. But if they're just out in front of us and he's like, okay, I'm good, then I might open up my stance. We're looking at it. Are you good? Okay, let's walk a little closer. Right here. There you go. And if he starts to react again, I'm getting in between us. I'm focusing him to look at me. I will do whatever it takes to get my dog to engage with me. I'm not going to coddle them. I'm not going to pick him up and run away. It's knock it off, focus on me. Yes, that's what I want. Good boy. So hopefully that makes sense. Skylar will probably show you that on Saturday when you come and get him. But do whatever it takes to get your dog in control. Okay, so that's the heel and engagement. Now we're going to talk about his long lead and recall. So the long lead is your best friend. That is how I exercise my dogs. Of course, my dogs now are e-collar conditioned, so I let them off leash, and it's wonderful. They can run, they can get all their energy out, but I have a way to bring them back. I have a tool to enforce the behaviors that I'm asking. So until you have complete trust in him, he's on a long lead. Okay, so that long lead, depending on where you're at, can be anywhere from 15 to 20 feet to 50 feet. And when I'm on that walk, he gets to sniff, he gets to run around and play. This is a great way to exercise your dog. And then periodically, I'm going to call him to come, which is our recall, give him a reward, and let him go again. So that way, it's very rewarding to him. He's checking in, which is rewarding to me, but he's also getting to exercise, which is really important for him. So you're going to practice that recall all the time. If he fails, I have a way to tell him no, and then I reel him in. Couple things with that. It is very, very important. The moment that he stops what he is doing and starts to come to you, just makes that initial movement, I'm going to tell him he's a good boy. I'm going to mark that behavior with that intermediary. You're doing the right thing. Keep coming. Once he gets to me, then I'm going to say, okay, give him the treat. As soon as he gets to me, I'm rewarding him. I'm not waiting for a sit. I want to reward the act of coming to me, not the act of sitting. If he fails, no, and I start to reel him in. As soon as he gives into that pressure and he starts coming towards me, once again, then I'll go through those the process of rewarding. So you might have, no, good boy, okay. So you might use all three markers there. Yeah, good boy. Once you feel like he is doing really, really well, then I would go practice your recall in an area where he can be off leash, but maybe fenced in so that you have a way to enforce it. The moment that he hesitates or doesn't respond to you and tries to ignore you, he goes back on that long lead. But you're going to practice this command a lot. Now, if he is off leash and he fails, then you have to go and get your dog. I will say no, and I'm going to start stalking them. I'm not going to run, because the moment that I run, it turns into keep away or chase, and he's going to run away from me. I may use a little bit of reverse psychology and be like, come on, go. Any noise, pup. Shiloh, come here, come on. Anything like that, but he's going to come running to me, and you can get his attention that way. But no matter what it takes, I will go and get my dog. He never gets to fail. Now, if I started stalking him and I got this far away and he came to me, I will reward that behavior. I always want to reward my dog for coming to me. So with that, I am going to grab this long lead and show you that recall. So now I have the long lead attached, so I'm just going to demonstrate his recall, and then I'm actually going to shift gears and I'm going to pull Skylar in here and she can help demonstrate engagement. So when I call Shiloh, the actual command is just Shiloh, come. Now I am going to say that in a very distinct tone. It's going to be different than my normal speaking cadence because I want him to understand. There should be no mistaking. So it's Shiloh, come. Good boy, okay, good boy. Once again, the moment he gets to me, I reward that behavior. I'm not waiting for a sit. I reward the actual behavior of coming to me. Shiloh, come. Good boy, okay. Now obviously it's easy to demonstrate in here because I have a short leash and there's nowhere for him to go. But if he was out there a ways and I told him come and he ignored me, I'm just going to initially tug. Good boy. The moment that he starts to come to me, he gives into that pressure. I'm going to tell him good boy and then okay when he gets here. I don't want to continually drag my dog, but if there's a lot of slack, I will start to back up and I will give him that tension. Good boy, and then reward him for giving in. So yeah, that's his recall. Now real quick, we're just going to hurry and demonstrate what the engagement actually looks like. We've already described it, but this is what it will look like if he starts to get reactive. Shiloh. Good boy. So you notice he switched his focus to me. Good boy. So I rewarded that behavior. Good boy. Watch me. Okay, good boy. Now if he started to pull to get towards her, I would just turn, give myself a little bit of distance here, put him in front of me, back towards the distraction, good boy, and reward him. Nope. If he tries to go around me, it's just a simple correction, good boy. If I needed to, I would then bend down and engulf him. So if he's in control, then we can advance towards the distraction. Good boy. And now he can go up and greet her. So that's everything that we've taught Shiloh. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out and let us know. But we're super excited to send him to you. Shiloh's just a great little dog.